Welcome back to our discussion of the plight of the Uyghurs, or the Chinese Muslims, 17 of whom are stuck in Guantanamo simply because there's no place for them to go. I'm joined by Elim Seitov, the director of the Uyghur Human Rights Project, and Hans Hograffe, the Democratic Staff Director of the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission. Let's get back to our discussions. And Elim, comparing the Tibetan and Uyghur situation, other countries have given the Tibetans refuge, but it seems that in the case of Uyghurs, they've been repatriated to China in many cases. And what has happened? I mean, has there been clear evidence of the way they've been treated when they've been sent back to China?
Yes, in most cases, the Uyghurs who have been deported back to China whether by Russia, by Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Pakistan, or some of the, like even Saudi Arabia, Egypt, I believe, a lot of countries have deported the Uyghurs back over the past 2 decades. Many of these Uyghurs either executed upon their return or simply disappeared. So we know for a fact that once Uyghur political activists are deported back to China, their fate is torture, death, or simply disappearance. And unlike Tibetans, we are very unfortunate, I would say. Tibetans have India. As long as Tibetans can cross the Himalayas safely and cross into India or Nepal, they are safe. There are a lot of international agencies, foreign governments ready to assist them. In the case of Uyghurs, we are landlocked, of course. Our neighbors are Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and all these countries. When the Uyghurs flee into these countries, and all of these countries are a great friend and ally of China. So these countries are ready to assist China in any way they can. So when the Uyghurs flee into these countries immediately deport them back to curry favor from China. So as a result, none of these countries are safe. One of the main reasons that some of these Uyghurs at Guantanamo actually ended up in Afghanistan is because they fled into Central Asian countries, fearing that they'd be arrested and deported back to China by these countries. They went to Afghanistan to save their lives.
We've got on the line Mohammed from Saudi Arabia. Mohammed, what would you like to ask?
Hi, Riz. Good evening. Yes,
Good evening.
I'd like to ask you, distinguished panel, I think the Uyghurs should be sent to Turkey because they have ethnic and linguistic links to the Turkish people. And as an incentive, Turkey should be awarded $100 million to set up an institute where they could resolve conflicts arising from minorities fighting for their rights and other clashes occurring due to differences in civilization, kind of things that are going on leading to Guantanamo.
Interesting thought, Mohammed. Let me put that to Hans Hograffe and say, has that been considered, that kind of setup?
The United States has undertaken significant efforts to talk to virtually every country in the world to explore possibilities where Uyghurs could go from Guantanamo. And that is exactly the dilemma that we're in right now, because so far no country has come forward. And the question is, as Alim had mentioned earlier on, does it not fall upon the United States to resolve this problem directly? And I do believe that that is still the best way to deal with this situation. Now, assuming that for some reason this wouldn't be possible, which I still strongly hope it is, because I do believe this is the international obligation of the United States, Turkey certainly would be a very interesting country for Uyghurs to return, because they're Turkmen, there is an ethnic affiliation, and this could be done. I'm not sure how the question of settling this for money would be handled, because we certainly do not want to be seen as paying other people off to deal with our problem, which is not what the caller suggested. I fully understood his comment about investing this to a foundation to deal with ethnic conflict. But as you know, there is already a country that has quite some experience in what happens to you if you do accept Uyghurs, and that's Albania. Because Guantanamo Uyghurs were sent to Albania, where they sit in pretty dismal conditions. They are the only Uyghurs in the entire country. They do not speak Albanian, and they look at each other pretty much all day and try to make ends meet. We have to find a situation where it's actually a livable situation for the Uyghurs once they return.
And Albania suffered to some degree as pressure from China as well, didn't it?
Oh, certainly. No, there was a huge amount of pressure in Albania, but now I know that sort of more industrialized countries, of course, have bigger things at stake in terms of trade, for example, with the Chinese government.
Alim, is the issue that Uyghurs are Muslim a bigger factor post 9/11?
It is exactly because Uyghurs are Muslims. The Chinese government, after 9/11, portrayed the Uyghur people's peaceful and legitimate demand for greater rights, respect for their rights, respect for their culture, for their Muslim religion. That's precisely because of that the Chinese government depicted Uyghur people's struggle as terrorism. But prior to 9/11, the Chinese government arrested, sentenced, and executed Uyghurs under the charges of such as counter-revolutionaries, ethnic nationalists, and even separatists. But after 9/11, they called Uyghurs as terrorists. So today, if you are a Uyghur Muslim, if you are not happy with Chinese rule in East Turkestan, if you say anything, write anything against China, China can virtually arrest and execute you as a violent terrorist.
Let's see if we can get a point in from Ahmed in Sweden quickly. Not much time, Ahmed. What's your view?
My view is that the European nations know little about Uyghur communities in outside their country, especially in Sweden, where I am calling you from. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of Uyghur people here who came here to seek asylum, but they were given negative decisions by the European, by the Swedish authority.
Ahmed, I have to stop you there only because we're out of time. I guess this is a debate, obviously, that we will have to have again. It's a subject that's coming more into the light, and it was good of you to join us for the conversation. Thank you both, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us. I'll be away next week, but my colleague and friend Anand Naidu is going to be sitting in for me. The discussion will centre around the real strategic threats facing global stability. We'll be speaking with Philip Bobbitt, a former top official in the US National Security Council. So do send in your questions, but from me and the team, we'll see you next time.